but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance through the state of California because of this. They're 90 years old. They've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So thank you, California insurance companies, supporting residents who pay taxes and love California. And they wonder why people leave California.
They're not telling you everything about what's going on with this fire. Let me tell you, I just got to tell you straight up. And as somebody just spent the last 5 days right there by the fires, I could see it on the horizon. I could see the ash coming down as we were coming off the aircraft. That was wild. And there's just so many things to this that just don't make any sense. And I want to talk about them just to get them off my chest. And maybe you can put your input in here and we can all together find out what's really going on. All right, dude. Yeah, let's get out of here. We tried, bro. I'm sorry. We tried our best.
Yeah, and when this tree falls, it's over.
Sorry, bro.
Gotta get out of here. Oh, shit. Holy. Dude, that tree.
Desperate for housing right now is many people who listed their homes have withdrawn the listing and instead decided to rent it out, and they're trying to get top dollar for it. So this was already an inventory constrained market, and it's just gotten much, much worse.
What you're about to see is one of the biggest land grabs in real estate history. This was some of the most expensive real estate we've ever seen burn down. It was one of the most expensive fires in US history. And to watch the politicians quibble and scream and whine and complain and point the finger at other people of why there was no water in the water lines, no pressure at the hydrants, when they all started at the same time, when you see actors and celebrities out there just begging for their houses not to burn down, there was a real problem. There's a lot of questions to be asked here.
And what about price gouging? We're hearing on the rental side, of course. I mean, some homeowners who wanted to sell are raising their list prices, those, as you say, that are taking them off the market to take advantage of rentals.
You hear about people suddenly asking for double the amount of rent. This is in an area where the median income would have to be used for 80% of the rent. So people already were having a hard time making their nut. And it's just going to get much harder now because so many people are displaced.
This is literally the same playbook we've seen with the hurricanes, with North Carolina and Florida. The same insurance crisis is going on in Florida, and it's about to go 10x in California.
We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions.
I want you to think about that right there. Think about it really hard. $750. That's all you're worth when your house burns down, when everything you own is gone. And we always got money for war, $200 billion to the Ukraine. Most people can't even point it out on a map, but you only get $750. That should anger you. That should make you so mad at these politicians that you can't even see straight, because they always say there's money for war, but none for you. Isn't that wild? Like, comment down below what you think about that. And then for the president to just come out, read off a sheet of paper, we give you $750. In the state of California, that's like 3 lunches, okay, with a family. You got a family of 4 or 5, go out to eat because your house burnt down. You know, that's like 4 or 5 lunches. You know, that's maybe, I don't even think that's a week of groceries in the state of California. I just came from there, and it's expensive. Everything is expensive. Tax on tax on tax on tax. Most of that $750 is going to be taxed when you spend it. I mean, if you've ever experienced trying to get insurance in California, you know, you got to get a fire policy because they happen all the time. These wildfires happen, and you have to get an insurance policy to cover your house if you have a mortgage. And that is about to triple. And as competition leaves the state of California, which it's going to, because there's one thing that these insurance companies are going to say: negligence. They're going to point the finger at the state and say, you failed to prevent these wildfires. You did not do Forestry 101 and maintain your forest. You did not do the things you needed to make sure you could put these fires out, make sure the reservoirs were at a certain level. Not only was it on the homeowner, usually they blame the homeowner for negligence. You didn't do this. Your house wasn't safe. You didn't have your wiring done. But now you got to look at the local government, the state, and say, you didn't do everything to prepare your city to not burn down. And that is just terrible to think that an elected official can sit there and watch her entire city burn down from another country. And isn't that wild that it happened to be at the exact same time that the fires were going on? She was in another country. And they all happened at the same time with winds they could predict. Everybody I talked to while I was out there said we all knew the winds were coming. They happen every year. And why did this happen? And it's just wild thinking, because I got the alerts on my phone as I was getting off the aircraft of evacuate. And then there was one they recalled and say, oops, sorry, we didn't mean to send that. Who does that? You didn't mean to send that? Freak out everybody, and you didn't mean to send that. And then you send another one. And then it's like, well, is this one real? What do we actually do? Either the politicians are that terrible or there's something else afoot. And I don't like to be a conspiracy theorist, but when I go down the line and one block checks, hey, why did these all start at one time? A second block checks, hey, there's no water to put these fires out. A third block checks, and we're like, the mayor was out of town at the exact same time this happened. And then another block checks, point and smear all the politicians. They try to say, why are you politicizing this? Why is the president-elect saying this? Because you got caught, man. The entire city is on fire. It's not like, a hurricane arrived, in a matter of a week. No. You knew there was no water in the reservoir. You did not test the fire hydrants. You changed the budget $17 million or whatever for LA County Fire Department. You did everything to check the block. I mean, we're at block 5 and 6 right now. And you're saying, oh, you're politicizing. Nah, man, nah. At this point, that's just negligence. Here's how this stuff works. They set the stage for a massive catastrophe. Something that is so big, it's unstoppable. They do it by not preparing for it. They kick the can down the road and they point at the other side of the aisle. Well, in California, the Democratic Party runs everything. So you can't point at the other side of the aisle. And then when it happens, you make the process so painful that nobody can react to it. There's not resources for it. You set the stage for this all to happen, and then you don't stop it. You just let it unfold. Nobody gets called out, nobody gets caught, nobody goes to jail. Then what happens? The investors, the ones that funded those campaigns, they come in and they sweep it all up. And the process was so painful, the landowners, the people that had it, they just quit. They throw their hands up and say, I just can't take it anymore. Or they're just too old to rebuild. And if you owned it outright and maybe you inherited it, you'll let it go because you're just too old to go through the... And I don't mean too old in a bad way. I'm just saying you just don't have it in your heart to spend the next 5 or 10 years rebuilding on this property. You say, you know what? Give me what you can and I'll get out of here. And that is what happened.
But it still is going to take a long time to rebuild all these homes, 2 or 3 years at the least. And LA is going to look completely different when we're done just because it's been rezoned for much higher density than we had in places like Pacific Palisades or Malibu before.
If you think these insurance companies are going to stick around, you got another thing coming. What did the first thing the governor want to do? He wanted to fence them in. You can't leave, you can't cancel an insurance policy.
And so that would lower the value of the home because when you put that insurance rate, that additional rate that would be for a home buyer, that's going to lower the value. But how does the value of the home get affected by the fact that perhaps there are not services around, that it's going to take a year or two for the entire neighborhood to rebuild? Does that lower the value of homes that are still standing as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many puts and takes here. It's really hard to say. On one hand, you're just going to have less inventory, and on the other hand, you're going to have homes that are the only homes standing on a block, but it still is going to take a long time to rebuild all these homes, 2 or 3 years at the least. And LA is going to look completely different when we're done, just because it's been rezoned for much higher density than we had in places like Pacific Palisades or Malibu before.
My heart goes out for everybody out there who lost their home. I feel terrible about it. But right now, I'm trying to hold politicians accountable, the local city officials accountable, and make sure this doesn't happen again. And it is just baffling that when I go down the list and I see all these things that they didn't do, that's what an insurance company is going to say. And that's when those insurance premiums are going to triple. And that's when they're going to leave the state entirely. And, you know, California has that last resort insurance. It's really expensive. We have it in Florida here, and it's terrible. And when all the insurance companies leave but one or two, and you have no competition in the market, that's checkmate. And you really got to be asking yourself and calling your senator and calling your congressman and say, look, we're in a bad spot. These hedge funds are going to be all over this real estate. I mean, if the rotary dial isn't smoking by now, it's going to be. Because these people that own these properties, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to rebuild these properties. And some of these people don't have 5 to 10 years to sit there and wait on these things to be rebuilt. Let me tell you, you're going to have to resource everything from the contractors to the marble to the special tile to the special roofing to the special everything that goes in a luxury house. And that's a lot. And then where are you gonna get all the workers? And then you really got to think the permit process is going to be atrocious. And if you don't think that people are going to change their political mind when they find out how hard it is to build back in Malibu, the Palisades, all these places, no, they're just going to go buy another house somewhere else. And we're already seeing the rent rates going through the roof in those areas. People are getting rent on sight unseen because they have to have a place to live. I mean, you're looking at 100,000 plus people that are going to have to relocate somewhere. And if you didn't think the housing market was bad, it's going to be even worse now. And some of those people are just going to leave the state entirely because you're fed up. Like when I was there this week, they had 3 garbage cans. And I tried to keep a note of what was the difference of coming from Florida to California. And when I saw 3 garbage cans where you had to divide it up between recyclables, regular garbage, and then biodegradable, and they're like, well, you know, we divide it all up. And I'm like, well, don't you have to run another truck for the entire city? And they're like, yeah, but it's natural gas. I was like, not electric? Things just don't make any sense. And I think we got some real questions to be asked here. These properties are going to be zapped up by these hedge funds, and they're going to change the dynamic of that entire area. It's one of the highest priced properties on the planet. And I think some people are just going to sell them to get rid of them and move on with life. And a motivated seller is what they want. And you're going to see condos go up, and they'll say, oh, they're not going to change the zoning. We're not going to change the zoning yet. It's coming. They're going to wait until this dies down, and we're going to look up one day, 2-3 years from now, and they'll have changed the zoning, changed the building regulations and permits for that area. After everybody sold it off for, half price, and you're going to see some large, giant corporation putting up whatever they wanted. And people will have been robbed of everything they had because of a fire that officials knew was going to happen. It was a matter of time that a giant fire happened. And we're probably going to see another one because they're not going to fix it. And anytime they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they say, climate change, climate change. Not, what are we going to do to fix this? It's climate change. Well, whether you believe the climate is changing or not. And a lot of this is you built a lot of junk on some property that you probably shouldn't have. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to stop putting water for the smelt fish and run it where it needs to go to protect people's homes? Or is the smelt fish going to win? I want you to comment down below what you think should happen. Let's have some discord. Let's have some back and forth, because the politicians aren't going to do it. And that's the problem when you have too much blue or you have too much red. You lose the discourse to say, where's the common sense in this? You have to have both sides of the aisle arguing against each other, and hopefully the best idea wins. Doesn't always happen. And if you're in the state of California, I feel for you. My heart goes out for you. I was there and I saw what was going on, and I had some real questions, and I had to just put them out there. I want you to comment down below and tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right. What should the politicians have been doing? Should the mayor step down? I think so, because you were on vacation when your city burnt down. That's pretty bad.
Existing homes right now in the LA area that were not part of the fire, do you expect to see home prices soar over the next 6 months, and by how much?
How many people are going to leave the area? We don't know how many homes are going to burn. We have seen just over the past week that more people want to list their home than buy a home. So I think Southern Californians are having second thoughts about living in fire-prone areas. But the other factor that you just have to think about in affordability, we used to think only about home prices and mortgage rates, but now we also have to consider home insurance rates. That is the third factor that no one really had to worry about. But in some cases, especially in the riskiest areas, insurance rates are doubling, tripling, quadrupling. And I think you had 13% of California agents last year say that a deal didn't come through because the customer couldn't afford the insurance.
I just saw a report a while ago that hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate was being listed in California, just like overnight. And you're going to see these properties get fired off, like sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it. And you're going to see these large hedge funds absorb them, and these big real estate holding companies absorb them. And then you're going to see the code change just in the middle of the night. It happens every time. And when you see the resources and everything involved with saving these people's properties slowly get rolled out, like there wasn't a big response, just like in North Carolina. It was slow to get going. All of a sudden, everybody's like, where's the help? Where's the water? Where do we live now? Where's FEMA? And it's slow to get there. And they do it on purpose. I'm telling you. And every one of these disasters, I've seen it. It's slow to get there. It makes your life just that much harder. Why can't we get resources? Why can't we get help? Why are fire trucks getting held at the California border trying to get in to help because of smog regulations? Why is bureaucracy keeping help from coming? And you just wonder, like, are they doing this on purpose? I think they are. Either that or the machine is just so big that nobody has common sense anymore. What do you think? My heart goes out for all the firefighters out there doing what they're supposed to be doing and working hard, but don't have any water. You know, at some point, you know, maybe the fire union will get on it and say, hey, you left us hanging, you know? And then I look at all the fire retardant chemicals coming from the sky, that red stuff. I looked it up, and there's a lot of stuff in that stuff. And they say it's not bad for the environment, but when you coat an entire hillside with that junk, but yet we're worried about the smelt fish, questions. These things I just don't understand. In conclusion, you are going to see a renter nation. People are just not going to own property in California. Why should they? When their insurance policy for fire is going to be more than their actual insurance policy or than their mortgage, and that the cost of ownership, because you have to have 3 trash cans, is just going up, up, and up, and the cost of maintenance is going to go up. Like, how are they going to think about how much infrastructure and how many materials are going to have to go in to rebuild these houses? And should they be built there? Question 2, because they burnt down and wildfires are a problem there. And if you're not going to do Forestry 101 and prevent forest fires, and that a guy with a book of matches running around could do more damage to the United States in 3 or 4 days than any army ever could on American soil, you got to ask that question. Lots of questions to be said there. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are moving from California to the state of Florida, I can help you with that as a real estate agent. My email is down below. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody that will, and we'll make sure you're in great hands. But we're going to see one of the greatest bailouts in American history, probably for this. Federal government is going to come in and bail this out. I can see that one coming. State of California is not going to be able to recover this without federal funding. And it's going to be interesting to see Trump and Newsom figure it out. Maybe they can sit down, work out the details. I don't think that's going to happen. So the California people are going to have to step in and make sure they're held accountable if they don't, because people's lives were destroyed. And we haven't even counted the contents of these houses. So we're going to see $200 billion in damage. I don't know what's going to go on. I hope this video helps. I had to just dump my mind out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.